Doug and Tony have landed somewhere next to an active volcano. Doug has done a lot of research into volcanoes, and he figures this one is gearing up to blow. But before they can think much more about it, a group of locals are apparently trying to give the lava a human sacrifice. Our heroes are not inclined to let that happen.
Afghani.
Do you understand that?
Sounds like Malay.
Is he a man? Ikamu.
Saya orang Amerika.
So, from America.
He explains that nobody lives on this island anymore. They only come here from Sumatra for this sort of thing. Speaking of which, what is this sort of thing? Why were they trying to kill that boy?
To appease the fires, there must be a human sacrifice.
I have questions. The first and most obvious is, how does he know that? Where did that information come from? When was the last time it worked? But I have another question, perhaps a little less obvious, but crucial nonetheless. How do you know he's the required sacrifice? How do you know you're not it? Down through human history, it has always amazed me how willing these priests and other religious leaders are to sacrifice other people's lives, but you never see them offering themselves as the proper human sacrifice. Funny how that works.
The earth trembles and spits fire. It's because of you. Dire, to the back. Now we shall make it stop. Toulouse!
Again, how does he know that? He doesn't. Like so many people, men almost always, in that position, he's making it up as he goes. And since he doesn't understand them, they're devils and he has to sacrifice them. I think he's just scrambling for somebody to throw in that pit since his original sacrifice ran off 10 minutes ago.
Bongo! Release him at once! What the blazes are you doing, Carnoso?
Strangers to us. Devils from the sky.
Devil's my foot! Now listen, if you're going back to this heathen superstition again, I'll skin you alive. Do you understand?
He's a scientist, and he's been trying to get it through these people's heads that the volcano has nothing to do with spirits or anything else, and as you can see, he's having kind of a difficult time of it.
Oh, I'm Howland. Dr. Everett Howland. Who are you?
I'm Dr. Phillips.
I'm Dr. Newman.
Medical or scholars?
We're scientists.
Good. I can use all the help I can get. Royal Society sent you out here, eh?
No, sir. We're Americans.
He starts trying to figure out how they got there, and they just sort of let him create a nice shipwreck in his own mind. But he's still confused as to why they don't even seem to know what part of the planet they're on.
Here, to the southeast, is Java. And, of course, over to the north is Sumatra.
What is this called?
This island, it's called Krakatoa.
Remember last time when I said I had a fair idea where they were? Yeah, clear back when the show first aired and we got to the end of that episode, the instant one of them said volcano, I knew they were on Krakatoa. How? It's the only volcanic eruption in modern history big enough to get the tunnel's attention. There was an eruption about that big in the Mediterranean. It's called either the Minoan eruption or the Thera eruption, but it happened somewhere around 1500 BCE. And since neither of our boys speak ancient Minoan, a dialect of Greek that we're still trying to decipher, and American English didn't exist at that time, they'd have a jolly time trying to communicate. Better to send them to Krakatoa, where they can find this Englishman who at least understands a smattering of American. They're trying to wheedle the precise date out of him, but he's too busy with his work to pay attention to what day it is. They do know they're within days, maybe even hours, of the Krakatoa explosion. This is not some place to be when that happens.
I'm here to prove to the Royal Society that the pressure is building up. And that someday it's going up with quite a big bang.
Not someday, Doctor. Now. This month. Perhaps in a matter of hours.
Oh, no. Your timing's way off. There will be an explosion, but by my calculation, it'll take 20 or 30 years from now.
He has his mind made up, and they can't give him a reasonable explanation for why they might know differently. They have to find out what the date is. Just then another tremor hits and they hear screams.
Are you hurt?
Eve,
I'm all right.
are you all right?
Yes, Father, I'm all right. Thanks to these gentlemen here. And I do thank you for rescuing me.
She's something you don't expect to see on a volcanic island in 1883.
These gentlemen are fellow scientists. Americans, of all things. This is my daughter, Eve Howland, and a darn good scientist in her own right.
She can't remember what day it is either, but she keeps a daily journal so she could look it up for them.
May we see your journal, Miss Howland?
No, you may not.
Ha! Well, there you have your answer, gentlemen.
Don't ask to look at it, dummy. Just ask her to look up in it and tell you what the date is. That was kind of rude. She has a feeling they want to steal her dad's research and take credit for it. It's happened to him before, and she doesn't want it to happen again. They revise their request and ask her just to look up the date, but she's done talking to them.
You really think these men are after our research?
Of course I do.
Well, I don't. And I'm sick of the whole business. So look up the date for them and leave me alone.
She's a good 19th century British daughter, so when he growls at her like that, she'll do what he says. In the control room, Jerry has done some digging and come up with the exact date and time of the eruption.
10:02 a.m., August 27, 1883.
That's awfully close to the time fix we've got here.
No kidding. Whatever is guiding their jumps through time has put them here to get the professor and his daughter off this island before it blows. The tunnel has been doing things like that. Have you guys not figured that out yet?
It's August 26th.
Doctor, do you have a map?
The eruption was on August 27th, so they have a good half day to convince everyone to leave. The question now is, to go where? Where can they find a safe place to ride out the explosion and the ensuing tidal waves?
According to this, most of the casualties were as a result of the enormous tidal waves.
Ray, you know, we could check it out ourselves. And could move our fix just far enough ahead to let us see the results.
And risk losing all contact?
Or you could consult some books and computers and find out where the worst tidal waves were and what places survived them best.
Oh, she's right. What good would it do?
It could confirm our research. Tell us whether there really is a chance of survival and where.
And if there's no other place close enough?
And then we're going to have to take our biggest risk of all. We're going to have to try to move all those people through time.
He finally orders Anne to move the fix ahead. What they see is destruction on a massive scale, all on Java. And that's where the boys have decided to go as the safest place.
That's after the explosion. Farther inland, on Java.
The boys may be mistaken about that. The folks in the control room know Java isn't the place to go, but how to tell Tony and Doug. They're having as much success with that as Doug and Tony are trying to convince the Hollands to leave the island.
Dr. Newman, please. This research is vital to my father. I even have reason to believe that he may be knighted for it.
And it means that much to you?
Oh, not the honors themselves, but vindication for him. He's had so many disappointments, and he's trusted so many people who have then cheated him of his fame.
Will it bother you much if the vindication is posthumous? And I'm a little embarrassed to admit, I did not recognize a young Ellen Burstyn. The fact that she was going by Ellen McRae for this episode didn't help. Tony says, "We are not rivals of your father's. We don't care about his research or any of the rest. Our goal is to keep the two of you alive, nothing more. And you aren't making it easy."
And so we're to give up everything, huh? Just all of our work on your word that we're in danger.
Yes, I'm afraid that's the way it is.
Take a chance and tell her how you know it's going to blow. She thinks you're a rival and a thief. Maybe if she thinks you're just crazy, it'll go a little better.
How'd you do?
I can't make her believe me. How about you?
Like father, like daughter.
Well, we can't stay on this island much longer.
I know. Look, we've given them every warning. Why don't we think of ourselves for a change? There are two boats. We'll take one of them and get out of here while we can.
I think the volcano agrees. It's already trying to throw you in the direction of the boat. But he was lighter and easier to throw, so he got there first. I think that was the kid they were trying to throw into the lava, so I can't blame him for getting the heck out of there. Now there's only one boat. Nobody else knows that yet, and Carnosu has other things on his mind.
There is bad trouble on Krakatoa.
All right, if you're so scared, blast it. Clear out. Take one of the canoes and go. Just let me get on with my work.
I will not leave Krakatoa. It is my home.
Wait a minute. At the beginning of the episode, he told Tony and Doug that nobody lives on Krakatoa anymore. He and the others came from Sumatra. Oops.
Are we back to this childish superstition again?
the earth grows angry, there must be a sacrifice to the fires.
I repeat, how do you know? And why shouldn't you be the sacrifice?
Now listen, I've heard enough of that talk. I warned you.
But now I know the reason for Krakatoa's wrath.
Oh, you do you?
Yes, the two strangers. I saw them come from the sky. Like magic they appeared. Only devils can do that.
I'm starting to feel like a loop pedal. How do you know only devils can do that?
But we know well how to handle devils.
Do you now? How do you know? Who told you and how do they know? How many genuine devils have you dealt with? Devil's food, cake, and deviled eggs don't count.
Listen to me, Kanosu. If you do anything to those men, I'll have your neck when we get back to civilization. Do you hear?
Yes, Tuan. I hear.
By the look in his eyes, the unspoken part is, but I no longer obey. I wonder why he was so cowed before Dr. Holland in the first place, but that was the kind of thing the British colonials did with the locals, especially the ones that didn't wear shirts and practiced human sacrifice.
Something's very wrong with their timetable. I don't know what it is, but it's wrong.
I agree. The eruption certainly doesn't look more than a few hours away.
When I heard that line, something clicked. I knew what was wrong. It has to do with Eve's journal. I'll give you a moment to figure it out.
Jerry, give General Kirk a quick rundown.
Well, sir, you see, moving in time is all a matter of rapid acceleration. That means concentrating a great deal of energy into an extremely small area.
All right. Now, what's your idea?
Well, the trouble has been trying to move both men simultaneously. The energy is dissipated, erratic. That's why we've had no control over where they went.
You're saying you need bigger batteries.
The plan is to focus on just one man and pour an enormous burst of energy through our transmitters.
It will work, I'm sure of it, and the computer seems to verify it.
The risks are pretty high because an overload or feedback loop could damage the whole complex. They'll have Ann run some numbers and decide if it's plausible.
Here are my records. They prove that the tremors are getting weaker and weaker, not stronger. The next one will be weaker still.
I'm not sure your seismograph would agree that that one was weaker still.
Feel the ground, Howland. It's getting hot.
You've known all along. Your instruments must have recorded all of it.
Yes, blast you. I admit it, I was lying.
He wanted to stay and take measurements until the very last moment, but he didn't figure anybody would stay and help him if they knew the place was going to explode under their feet.
Does your daughter know?
My daughter is a dedicated scientist, Doctor.
Well, don't you think that's her decision?
Oh, will you mind your own bloody business?
When you're playing God with somebody else's life? No, we won't. You can't keep her there and endanger her. She has to grow up to be in The Exorcist. Doug realizes there's something off about their timetable because the pressure under the ground is building a lot faster than it should, as though the eruption is almost imminent rather than several hours away. Have you figured it out yet? Here's a hint. When the Doctor and Eve left England for Krakatoa, they sailed west, around South America and across the Pacific Ocean. Anne has finished running the numbers on Jerry's idea to isolate one of them and bring him back.
But this could be something else.
A power feedback could produce a time warp here in the tunnel.
What effect would that have?
Well, that's the point, Jerry. We don't know, and we have no way of calculating.
In that case, I veto the plan.
He says we still have a day to come up with something better. They all agree.
The little fool. This could cost all of us our lives. They went down through the Straits of Magellan and then west across the Pacific.
They crossed the international date line.
Exactly.
She didn't account for it in her journal. It's not August 26th, it's August 27th, the day of the eruption. The general said they have 24 hours, they may have 24 minutes. They have to tell Holland and Eve and get out of there right now.
Soon the ground will no longer shake and Krakatoa will no longer smoke. Throw them to the fire!
There was a previous eruption in May of that year, and Carnosu said he fled the island when that happened. Did they offer any human sacrifices then? And if so, can he explain why they didn't work? There's no time left. The control folks have to risk Jerry's idea. Anne has the best lock on Tony, so let's bring him back. first thing he notices is Doug isn't there. Then he notices something a little more significant. The entire complex is frozen in time. He can do anything he wants to. Turn the General's medals upside down, redo Anne's hair, steal Jerry's pocket protector, put a wig on Ray. He could have lots of fun. But he's not thinking about fun right now. He's not sure what's going on.
A time warp.
If I didn't do that one, they'd kick me out of the Reviewers Union.
But the controls work in a time warp. Oh, they work.
Seems a little convenient, but let's face it, you and I have no idea how any of this stuff is supposed to work, so we can't prove that's not how it is. That's why we just go with it. He leaves Ray a note, takes the information about the tidal waves, and sends himself back. You realize if you stab him to death, you've ruined your human sacrifice. I kept telling him he should set the example and go first.
All right, we're all leaving Krakatoa now. Find Howland and his daughter, Tony. We'll manage to get them all to Java somehow.
No, not Java. Look at this.
Sumatra. The high ground just inland. Where in the devil did you get this?
I'll tell you later. I'll find the Howlands.
There isn't room for all of them in that one boat. Doug and Tony will have to stay behind. But that note Doug left, he gave Ray exact coordinates where to transfer them, so as long as they can get to that spot, they'll be fine. Ray found Tony's note, and the crew is discussing what to do.
Can we let them know somehow that we got the message?
No, they'll know that when we switch them.
I mean now, so they'll be certain. What about voice contact?
Oh, it hasn't worked for us yet, John.
Oh, we got a good fix. Maybe it will this time. Patch me in. I'm going to try.
All right.
Really? We can talk to them now?
Where is your father? Answer me.
Tony! Tony, can you hear me?
General?
Who are you?
We're the representatives from District 4 in the Hunger Games.
Travelers in time. That voice comes from nearly 100 years in the future. That's how we know about Krakatoa and when it blew up. It's all history to us.
No, that isn't true. It couldn't be.
General! I hear you. Can you read me?
Affirmative. We got the note you left for the time-space coordinates. Will you both be there?
We'll be there. Will you be able to switch us? General!
I want to know what mechanism generated that voice on Tony's end. What created the sound? Whatever it was, it's enough to convince both her and her father. They and the locals load up in the last canoe and take off.
Let's get to the coordinates. They're about to switch us.
Clearly, the quickest way to get to the coordinates is to stand there and look at stuff. The control room is ready to switch them and bring them home.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, now!
What's wrong?
I'd start by adjusting your horizontal hold.
We're getting interference. It's affected our power output.
Why? What's doing it?
I was afraid of that. The forces are building in the volcano and affecting our instrumentation. We'll have to make adjustments to compensate.
That means they can't bring them home. But if they can compensate enough for the interference, they can switch them to somewhere else, hopefully someplace that isn't exploding.
You all right?
Where are we?
Do we have a reading on the time zone they're in?
Sometime before 100 BC.
And there are dead soldiers all around them. What battle was this, and how much trouble are they in since they dropped into the middle of it? They aren't dressed like either of those groups, so I'm going to guess they're in a ton of trouble.
Stabilized at 1200 BC.
Where? Space-time coordinates 389-58. About where Greece and Turkey meet at the Hellespont.
That doesn't help our boys much.
Die, Trojan!
Neither does that. He called them Trojans, and that gives us an idea of what war they're in. Which one of them speaks really ancient Greek? I guess we'll find out.